Tips for apartment security. We'll just call this tips for apartment security 2. And before I go on into that, a long time ago, I was talking about the security officer channel. It never went live. Last week it went live, and I will be uploading videos for security officers on GRSE and the security officer channel at the same time, but eventually I won't put them on GRSE anymore. They'll just go up on the security officer channel. So if you're a security officer and you're watching my channel, head on over to the security officer channel, sign up for, I don't want to say advice. I don't like to give advice. I like to add to people's perspective. And let's see if I can add to your perspective, in your reasoning and your thought process when it comes to doing security. So there's that. Anything else? Okay. So apartment security 2. Inevitably when you upload videos, especially when you do them, kind of off the cuff, you always forget something. And so I know I talked about, contracts and getting the roster, but I want to expand upon that. I want to expand upon a couple other things, but those other videos. So, you're new to the property, security's new to the property, you meet the manager, you get the roster, and we'll go over that in a second, but you also want to request the contract with all the riders that are on the contract, because you want to see what the residents have actually agreed to. So if there is a problem or a dispute with something that you're asking them to do is some way in which they're in violation of the contract, you want to be able to pull out that contract and say, listen, this is a general contract for everybody on the property. This is not your specific contract, but this is where it says this. Right? So they can't get away with saying I don't know, because everyone had to sign it. So there's that. So that's why you kind of want the contract, specifically for that kind of purpose. So when you're trying to enforce a rule of the property or something that they agreed to, you can show it to them in black and white, so they can't get around that. So there's that. And you also want management to notify all your residents, whether you do it or whether they have someone else do it, on the first day that you're there or the day before. I wouldn't say no more than 1 or 2 days before, if not the day that you arrive, that security's on the property, that security will be on this property from this time to this time, unless security is floating hours. Usually they do that when they're only on property for a short period of time, and they don't want people to know exactly when they're there, so they'll move the hours around. What time you're going to be there, and then what your duties are, what you're going to enforce. So if you're going to enforce all those riders, noise riders, loitering, this and that and the other, and to remind people of the things that they generally can't do in the common areas, because that's what you're responsible for. So, and you want to hand those out. So, maybe we can squash some problems before there are some problems, because people don't respond that well to change in general, not unless it's a change that they want. So we talked about the contract, we handed out the notices, and now we want to talk about the roster. One, you want the roster for the property, and then anytime anybody moves in or out, that roster needs to be updated. That is extremely important, because now you know who's supposed to be on the property and who doesn't supposed to be on the property. And if you're checking vacants and somebody moved into a vacant, and you go to check that vacant and someone's in there, it may change your perspective on how to deal with it, or change how you deal with it. Because if you don't know that somebody's in there and they're just walking around the apartment, making sure their gas and electricity's on and maybe moving a few things in that day, you're not treating them like they're criminally trespassing on that property, which, brings a different level of aggression. Plus, you're not thinking that they broke into the apartment, which brings another level of aggression. So, there's that. But also, you want to be able to know who's living in the apartment that's on the lease and who's living in the apartment that's not on the lease. Also, when people come to visit, you want to know who to associate them with. I give you example, Mr. Long. Who are you going to see? Oh, I'm going to go see Mr. Combs in 132. Well, Mr. Long, there's no Mr. Combs in 132. That's if you have gate security. But if I'm just sitting in my car in the parking lot, well, Mr. Long, there's no one that, named Mr. Combs at 132. They're not on the lease. Well, this is where he said he lived. Okay. Well, let's check it out, because we don't really let people loiter in the car. So, if you're going to go up to 132, let's walk up to 132 and make sure that there's a Mr. Combs there and this and that and the other. So you're going around verifying things, and you're always collecting information. You're always collecting information. The whole time you're on shift, you're collecting information. And if you're not there every day of the week and there's more than one shift, then you're always sharing information. And, and I'll make another video about, how to share information. But that's why you want that roster. You want to know who's on the property, where they're going, this and that and the other in general. You're not there to be the Gestapo, but you want to always be aware of what's going on. I mean, because I'm assuming that we're doing difficult demographic security. And so you have to always be aware what's going on. It behooves you to generally be aware of what's going on. So that's pretty much all I have to say about contracts. Get the contract, make sure that notices are out that says security's on the property, what time they're going to be there, and their responsibilities, what they'll be doing. You want the residents to know that. That's for you, to help make your life a little bit easier. And then you want that roster, and you want that roster kept up to date. I don't care if people are moving in and out of that place every single day. You get a new roster every single day. That somebody turns in the keys or gets a set of keys to an apartment every single day. And that's for everyone's safety, and that's for everyone's knowledge and information and understanding. And so you can just generally keep track of what's going on the property, because there's nothing worse than a resident that used to live on the property coming back onto the property that you think that lives there, maybe starting some kind of commotion or chaos or something like that. That no longer lives there. They just come in to hang out because that's where, they know a lot of people, but they don't actually live there. And then, they have no rights or privileges, or no privileges. I don't know about rights. Yeah, maybe that's the right word to say. No rights or privileges. And visitors have no rights or privileges and no say in anything. And if you live there, but you're not on the lease, then you don't have any say in anything. So, it's those kind of things. Anyway, the sun's in my face. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the Security Officer channel. All right, deuces.